sustaining wealth in this new era. Over the years, we've been able to produce thousands of millionaires and hundreds of billionaires. So a lot of people that have been a part of the journey of empowerment that we have done. This year makes it 33 years of empowering people. So we already have a lot of people that are beginning to operate in that realm of millions, and some are beginning to operate in the realm of billions. But the challenge is sustainability, and that's what I want to focus on today, because every time we come every year, it's very, very important for us to continue to grow in our wealth creation journey. When you begin to sit down to study rich and wealthy people all over the world, one of the things that you begin to realize is that there are people alive today whose grandparents were very wealthy, but they are poor. There are people alive today whose parents were very wealthy, but they are poor. So you find out that when you look all over Africa, when it comes to wealth, when it comes to organizations, hardly will you be able to see a family where wealth has transcended from one generation to the other, even to the third and the fourth generation. So you find out that a lot of wealthy people that exist today are more like the first generation of wealthy people within their family. So most likely, when you see wealthy people today, their parents are poor or their grandparents are poor, and then they tell you about the story of how they have been able to break through that barrier of poverty and come into a place of wealth. But when you also sit down with them, you find out that one of the major fear of a lot of people that are first generation wealthy people is the fear of, will this wealth that I have been able to create, will it live beyond me? So you see a lot of people thinking of how to ensure that their children and those that have come after them are better positioned and better equipped, so that the wealth that they are creating can transcend beyond them. Now, in the month of March, we have a group known as the Billionaires Conclave. Wisdom, Olumide, Timothy, they are all parts of that organization, and we have a lot of people that we're training and mentoring to be able to help them to build sustainable wealth on the continent and even in the world. One of the reasons why a lot of organizations and a lot of wealth does not go beyond the first generation to become sustainable is because most of the time the first generation is always a pioneering generation. When people are pioneers, they have that drive and that passion to make sure that they push and push and push until they're able to come into a place that makes this easy for them. So the first generation is always a pioneering generation, but by the time the second generation comes, unfortunately, the second generation most of the time becomes a maintenance generation. So the second generation begins to focus on how they can maintain what the first generation has created and pioneered. By the time we get to the third generation, you find out that the third generation have become an entitlement generation, because most of the time the third generation are people that are born into a place where they have not been able to understand the struggles of the first generation. They were born into wealth, they were born into ease, they have been able to leverage on the possibilities that have been created by those that have gone ahead of them. So you now find out that by the time we get to the third generation, the wealth begins to fizzle out instead of being sustained. So in order for wealth to be sustained and in order for wealth to become transgenerational, every generation must be a generating generation. So the first generation must be a generating generation that continues to generate wealth. The second generation must be a generating generation that continues to generate their own wealth while also maintaining the wealth of the first generation. So they use the wealth of the first generation as a leverage to speed up their own journey while generating their own wealth with the uniqueness of their environment and the uniqueness of their own generation. And the third generation should never be an entitlement generation. The third generation should appreciate whatever they have received as a gift of grace and as an opportunity to move faster and make greater impact. So the third generation should also be a maintenance generation that is also a generating generation.